Money problems usually don't begin because someone earns too little.
They begin the moment a paycheck arrives without a plan.
That's interesting because most people celebrate payday as if the hard part is over, when it's actually the moment the biggest financial decisions begin.
Exactly.
Every paycheck quietly asks the same question: what do you want me to do before I'm gone? Most people never hear that question because they immediately start thinking about everything they wanted to buy while waiting for payday.
Which is completely understandable because our brains naturally reward immediate pleasure more than future security.
That's why someone can receive a raise and still feel broke 6 months later.
Right.
Higher income solves some problems, but it doesn't automatically create better financial habits.
I've seen people making six figures who still panic when an unexpected car repair shows up.
And I've met families with much more modest incomes who sleep well because every dollar already has a purpose.
So maybe wealth has less to do with income than with direction.
I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about money.
Income gives you options, but decisions determine outcomes.
Here's something I've always wondered.
Should the first thing people do after getting paid be investing?
Not necessarily.
Before investing, I think every paycheck should first protect your life.
Protect your life sounds dramatic.
What do you mean by that?
I mean paying essential bills, avoiding unnecessary late fees, and gradually building an emergency fund so one surprise doesn't become a financial disaster.
That makes sense because an investment account isn't very helpful if you have to empty it every time your washing machine breaks.
Exactly.
Financial stability comes before financial growth.
So the paycheck has two jobs.
First, keep today's life stable.
Then help tomorrow's life become better.
And the mistake many people make is trying to skip the first job while chasing the second.
Here's where I think people make their first mistake.
They wait until the end of the month to see what's left instead of deciding where everything goes on payday.
That's like eating dinner first and hoping there's enough food left to pack tomorrow's lunch.
Exactly.
Leftovers are unpredictable, but planning isn't.
So, what would your ideal paycheck routine look like?
I'd start by covering essential expenses, then set aside money for savings and investing before thinking about lifestyle spending.
Some people hear that and immediately think life is going to become boring.
I actually think it's the opposite because planned spending feels far more enjoyable than impulsive spending followed by regret.
That's true.
Buying something without guilt is a completely different feeling than checking your bank balance afterward and hoping you didn't overdo it.
People often confuse discipline with punishment.
When real discipline is simply making today's decisions easier for your future self.
Let me challenge that for a second.
What if someone says they don't earn enough to save anything?
I would never tell someone to ignore reality because some budgets are genuinely tight.
So are we saying saving isn't possible for everyone?
I'm saying the amount may change, but the habit matters even more than the number.
Explain that because I think people misunderstand this idea all the time.
Imagine two people.
One saves $20 from every paycheck, while the other promises to start saving only after getting a promotion.
The first person is building consistency while the second is waiting for perfect circumstances that may never arrive.
Exactly.
Habits usually grow before balances do.
Which also explains why some people get a bigger paycheck and somehow end up spending every extra dollar without noticing.
Because income can increase overnight, but financial habits usually don't.
There's actually a name for that, isn't there?
Lifestyle inflation.
Yes.
It's when your spending quietly rises every time your income does, leaving your financial progress standing still.
Which explains why someone earning twice as much doesn't always feel twice as secure.
Exactly.
More income can improve your life, but only if at least part of it improves your balance sheet instead of your shopping habits.
I like that phrase because people obsess over upgrading their lifestyle, but rarely think about upgrading their financial position.
And your financial position is what gives you choices when life doesn't go according to plan.
Let's say someone gets a 5% raise next month.
What's the smartest move?
I'd celebrate it, then immediately decide that a portion of that raise never reaches everyday spending.
So you're suggesting paying your future before rewarding your present.
That's one way to think about it, and it usually hurts far less than people expect.
I think the biggest challenge is that every paycheck feels temporary.
That's because people often see income as something to spend instead of something to direct.
Here's a question that changed how I think about money.
What if every paycheck had to take care of you for the rest of your life?
That completely changes the conversation because suddenly every decision carries a little more weight.
Not in a stressful way, but in a thoughtful way.
Right.
The goal isn't to fear spending.
The goal is to spend with intention.
I knew someone who bought every new phone the week it came out, yet delayed contributing to retirement for years.
Let me guess.
The phones are long gone, but the missed years of investing can't be recovered.
Exactly.
Products lose value over time, but good financial decisions often become more valuable the longer they exist.
That's probably the biggest hidden power of every paycheck.
It isn't just buying today's life.
It's quietly shaping tomorrow's life.
Here's something people rarely think about.
Every paycheck represents hours of your life, not just dollars in your account.
That's a powerful shift because once you connect money to time, spending starts to feel very different.
Exactly.
A $200 impulse purchase isn't just $200.
It's several hours, or maybe even days, of work depending on your income.
Yet we often spend that money in less time than it took to earn it.
Which is why I like asking one simple question before buying something.
Would I still want this if I had to work another full day just to pay for it?
That's surprisingly effective because it slows down emotional decisions without making you feel deprived.
Most expensive mistakes happen when emotions are moving faster than logic.
Especially right after payday, when people feel temporarily richer than they actually are.
That's a great point because your bank balance isn't your wealth.
It's simply the cash you currently control.
Wealth is what remains after you've made smart decisions consistently over many years.
I think people underestimate how quickly small financial habits compound.
They do because the results are invisible in the beginning.
It's a little like planting a tree.
For a long time, it doesn't look very impressive.
Then one day you realize it's providing shade that didn't exist years earlier.
Investing works in a similar way because time quietly does the heavy lifting.
Which makes delaying every paycheck decision more expensive than most people realize.
Exactly.
Waiting doesn't just postpone progress.
Sometimes it permanently reduces it.
That's why people who start investing earlier often have an advantage that isn't based on earning more money.
It's based on giving compound growth more years to work, and compound growth simply means your money begins earning money, which then earns even more over time.
So every paycheck isn't just an opportunity to spend.
It's an opportunity to give your future more time to grow.
Let me ask something that always starts an argument.
Should people pay off debt before investing?
I don't think there's one answer because not all debt behaves the same way.
That's where people get confused because they hear one rule and apply it to every situation.
Exactly.
High-interest credit card debt is very different from a low-interest mortgage.
So if someone is paying 20% interest on a credit card, that should probably become the priority.
I would agree because consistently paying that kind of interest makes building wealth much harder.
But if someone has a manageable loan with a relatively low interest rate, investing at the same time can sometimes make sense.
Which is why personal finance is personal, even when the principles stay the same.
People are always looking for one perfect formula.
When the better question is whether your financial decisions fit your own circumstances.
I also think every paycheck should include something people rarely talk about.
What's that?
Room to enjoy life.
I'm glad you said that because some people act as if financial success requires eliminating every small pleasure.
Then they become exhausted, abandon the plan, and end up spending even more later.
Exactly.
A financial plan has to be sustainable or it won't survive real life.
So you're saying the occasional dinner out isn't the enemy?
Not if it fits your plan and doesn't come at the expense of your future goals.
That's an important distinction because intentional spending is completely different from emotional spending.
Emotional spending usually tries to solve feelings with purchases, while intentional spending supports a life you've already decided to build.
That reminds me of something a friend told me after getting a big bonus.
He said, "I deserve to enjoy this." I don't disagree with that statement.
I just think the definition of enjoyment needs to be bigger than a shopping cart.
What do you mean by bigger?
Imagine using part of that bonus for a vacation, part for investing, and part to strengthen your emergency fund.
You're enjoying today without stealing from tomorrow.
I like that because it doesn't force people into an all-or-nothing mindset.
Financial success rarely comes from extreme decisions.
It usually comes from balanced ones repeated consistently.
Here's another mistake I see.
People focus on how much they earn but ignore how much they keep.
That's why two people with the same salary can end up living completely different financial lives 10 years later.
One quietly builds assets while the other keeps upgrading liabilities.
Let's define those because people hear those words all the time.
An asset is something that has the potential to increase your wealth or generate income over time.
And a liability is something that regularly costs you money or loses value while you own it.
That doesn't mean every liability is bad.
Exactly.
You need a place to live and a way to get to work.
The key is understanding what each purchase is actually doing for your finances.
I think too many people buy things to impress people who aren't paying their bills.
That's one of the most expensive habits anyone can develop.
The strange part is that most people are too busy thinking about their own lives to spend much time judging yours anyway.
Which means a lot of financial stress comes from trying to meet expectations that barely exist.
Every paycheck gives you another chance to choose between looking wealthy and becoming wealthy.
And those two paths often look surprisingly similar at the beginning, but lead to completely different destinations. Here's something I wish more parents taught their kids.
A paycheck is a tool, not a reward.
That's a subtle difference, but it changes everything because tools are meant to build something.
Exactly.
If every paycheck only disappears into consumption, it's building someone else's future instead of yours.
That's why businesses love repeat customers.
They're counting on predictable spending habits.
And there's nothing wrong with spending, as long as you're just as committed to paying yourself as you are to paying everyone else.
I like that phrase, paying yourself, because it sounds selfish until you realize it's actually responsible.
Right.
Paying yourself simply means setting aside money for your own future before every dollar gets claimed by someone else.
It's amazing how people never miss a utility payment, but constantly postpone saving for themselves.
Maybe because the utility company sends reminders and your future self doesn't.
That's probably one of the funniest truths about personal finance.
So how do you make saving feel less optional?
Automate it whenever possible.
If money moves into savings or investments automatically, you're relying less on willpower.
You're removing the daily decision.
Exactly.
Good financial systems reduce the number of decisions you have to make.
Which explains why successful people often simplify their finances instead of making them more complicated.
Complexity feels impressive, but simplicity is usually easier to maintain for decades.
I think people underestimate how exhausting constant financial decision-making can become.
Decision fatigue is real.
The more choices you face, the easier it becomes to choose whatever feels good in the moment.
So every automated transfer is doing more than moving money.
It's protecting you from yourself.
And sometimes the smartest financial decision is the one you never have to think about again.
Have you noticed that people love tracking their income, but rarely track their spending with the same enthusiasm?
That's because earning money feels exciting while examining spending forces you to confront uncomfortable truths.
Yet spending tells a much clearer story about your financial habits.
Exactly.
Your paycheck tells you what you can do, but your spending shows what you actually chose to do.
I tried reviewing my monthly expenses once, and I was genuinely surprised by how many subscriptions I had forgotten about.
That's more common than people think because small recurring charges quietly become part of the background.
One subscription isn't the problem.
10 forgotten subscriptions can be.
Which is why reviewing your finances once a month is almost like cleaning out a closet.
You rediscover things you forgot you owned.
And sometimes you wonder why you were paying for them in the first place.
Here's another question.
Should every paycheck include money for learning new skills?
I think that's one of the highest return investments a person can make.
Even more than buying better equipment or nicer things.
Often, yes, because new skills can increase your ability to earn for decades.
That's an interesting way to think about education.
It's not just an expense.
It can become an income-producing asset.
Exactly.
A course, a certification, or even a well-chosen book can continue paying dividends long after you've finished it.
Of course, not every purchase labeled as education is automatically valuable.
Right.
Knowledge only creates value when you actually apply it.
So maybe every paycheck should improve not only your bank account, but also your earning potential.
Because the best investment isn't always the one that grows your money.
Sometimes it's the one that grows your ability to create more of it.
There's another paycheck habit that doesn't get enough attention, and that's increasing your savings rate instead of only increasing your lifestyle.
That's harder than it sounds because every raise suddenly makes nicer options feel affordable.
Affordable and beneficial aren't always the same thing.
Exactly.
Just because you can afford something doesn't mean it deserves a permanent place in your budget.
I think social media has made that distinction even harder.
It has because we're constantly exposed to people showing the highlights of their spending instead of the reality behind it.
You never see the monthly payments, the credit card balance, or the financial stress that might come with those purchases.
Which is why comparing your finances to someone else's online life is almost always misleading.
I like comparing progress against my own past instead.
That's one of the healthiest financial habits because it keeps your goals personal rather than competitive.
Imagine two coworkers getting identical raises on the same day.
One immediately upgrades the car, while the other quietly increases retirement contributions and builds an emergency fund.
5 years later, the second person might not look richer, but they could be significantly more secure.
And security is often invisible until life throws you an unexpected challenge.
That's something people don't appreciate enough, because financial confidence usually comes from preparation, not luck.
Exactly.
An emergency fund isn't exciting on the day you build it.
It's exciting on the day you need it.
It's a little like owning an umbrella on a sunny afternoon.
You don't celebrate carrying it around until the weather suddenly changes.
Every paycheck gives you another chance to prepare for storms you hope never arrive.
And that's one of the quietest forms of wealth because it buys peace of mind long before it buys anything else.
Let me ask you something.
At what point does someone actually become financially successful?
I don't think it's tied to a specific salary.
I think it begins when your paycheck starts creating freedom instead of just covering obligations.
Freedom means different things to different people, though.
Exactly. And that's why defining success for yourself is so important instead of borrowing someone else's definition.
Some people dream of retiring early while others simply want enough savings to sleep peacefully at night.
Both are valid because money is a tool for supporting your values, not replacing them.
I think people sometimes chase bigger paychecks without asking what they're hoping those paychecks will actually change.
That's a great question because earning more doesn't automatically solve problems created by poor financial habits.
In fact, it can magnify them if spending grows just as quickly.
Which brings us back to the importance of having a plan before the paycheck arrives.
Here's a practical habit I recommend.
Spend a few minutes before payday deciding where the next paycheck will go.
So when the money lands in your account, you're following a plan instead of making emotional decisions.
Exactly.
Planning while you're calm usually leads to better choices than deciding in the excitement of payday.
I like that because it removes the pressure of making dozens of decisions all at once.
It also helps couples avoid unnecessary financial disagreements because expectations are discussed before the money arrives.
That's something people overlook.
Good financial communication can be just as valuable as a higher income.
Money arguments often aren't really about money.
They're about different priorities and unclear expectations.
And a simple paycheck plan gives those priorities a chance to meet before emotions do.
So every paycheck becomes more than a deposit.
It becomes a conversation with your future.
And the quality of that conversation often determines the quality of your financial life.
If someone remembered only one idea from this conversation, I'd want it to be this.
Every paycheck should solve today's needs while improving tomorrow's possibilities.
I like that because it balances responsibility with optimism instead of treating money like something to fear.
Exactly.
Financial planning isn't about saying no to everything.
It's about saying yes to the things that matter most.
And the people who build wealth usually become intentional before they become wealthy.
That's a pattern I've noticed too.
Their habits change long before their bank balances do.
Which means anyone can start thinking like a wealth builder before they actually become one.
That's encouraging because it puts progress within reach regardless of your current income.
Small improvements made with every paycheck eventually become life-changing improvements over many years.
People often search for one brilliant financial move when they're really looking past hundreds of good, ordinary ones.
Consistency rarely makes headlines, but it quietly creates extraordinary results.
Looking back, the smartest paycheck isn't the biggest one you've ever received.
It's the one you used most intentionally.
I wish more people realized that financial confidence doesn't come from hoping everything works out.
It comes from knowing you've prepared for what you can control.
And that preparation makes unexpected challenges feel manageable instead of overwhelming.
Which is probably the greatest return any paycheck can provide.
So the next time payday arrives, maybe the first question shouldn't be, what do I want to buy? Maybe it should be, what kind of life do I want this paycheck to help build? That's the difference between letting money pass through your hands and putting it to work for your future.
If this conversation gave you a new perspective on money, subscribe for more thoughtful discussions about investing, business, financial independence, and building long-term wealth together.
Before we wrap up, there's one misconception we haven't challenged enough.
People assume a paycheck is the reward for the work they already did.
I see it differently.
A paycheck is really the resource that determines what your past work can accomplish in the future.
That's an important distinction because earning the money is only half the process.
The other half is deciding whether that money creates temporary comfort or lasting opportunity.
And those decisions repeat over and over again with every single paycheck.
Which means no single payday has to be perfect.
What matters is making the next one a little better than the last.
I think that idea removes a lot of unnecessary pressure.
It does because financial success isn't built on flawless decisions.
It's built on consistent improvement.
So if someone overspent last month, the answer isn't guilt.
It's making a better plan for the next paycheck.
Exactly.
Your financial future isn't determined by one mistake.
It's shaped by the habits you choose to repeat.
That's actually hopeful because every payday gives you a fresh opportunity.
And unlike yesterday's paycheck, tomorrow's hasn't been spent yet.
Which means every future paycheck still has the power to change your financial direction.
One thoughtful decision today can become a habit that benefits you for decades.
Looking back at this conversation, it's amazing how often we've come back to the same theme without forcing it.
Because the biggest financial breakthroughs usually come from simple ideas practiced consistently, not complicated strategies.
If people stop treating payday as permission to spend and start treating it as permission to build, everything begins to change.
And over time, they may discover that the real value of a paycheck was never the amount printed on it, but the choices it made possible.
That's probably the best definition of financial maturity I've heard in a long time.
If you enjoyed this conversation, subscribe for more intelligent discussions on money, investing, business, and long-term wealth, and we'll see you in the next one.